April 2018, Ohio. Annie sat in the meadow with dynamite planted underneath her. Her fate seemed to hinge on the outcome of a difficult conversation. Marcy Murray held the detonator in her hand, looking out the farmhouse window at her husband's true love. When her husband, John, returned home, he had a decision to make. His answers could determine the direction of the explosive finale. Earlier that week, it was a pleasant and warm April Sunday on the Murray farm in central Ohio. The smell of spring flowers filled the air to Marcy's delight. John, however, wouldn't stop sneezing. Hibiscus and tulips aggravated his allergies, and he was glad they didn't bloom for long. Marcy gazed at her favorite flowers with springtime delight, but noticed that their beauty was making the old house a mess. John had repaired the barn over the winter, but the white paint on the house looked dirty and peeling, exposing the ugly old greenery underneath. Several boards clearly needed replacing, and a few shingles had crumbled over the edge of the roof. On the porch, she spotted Duke, their faithful black Labrador. Not long ago, he would run to her when she went outside and greet her with quick fiddling and playful squeals. She regretted that even her playful puppy was now an old dog. Her initial springtime joy quickly faded away, and she felt aged and a little depressed. "Good morning, Pastor. John, good to see you." Marcy and John Murray looked forward to coming to church every week. They had many friends at the small Baptist church, and it was also the day they were guaranteed to see their daughters and their families. During their 26 years of marriage, they had two beautiful girls, a grandson from their oldest daughter and a granddaughter on the way from their youngest. It became a family tradition to attend church together, followed by Sunday brunch at the Madison Inn. It was always the highlight of their week. "Will you keep me awake with your morning sermon?" John teased. The pastor smiled. "I hope so. You're my visual barometer of how I'm doing." "Oh, I see our girls over there. I'll give you grades after the service." "Be careful with the grades, John. We need more people with the gift of encouragement these days." As they approached their family, Marcy shared an observation with her husband. "Look, honey, that girl our girls are socializing with, is that Cindy Shaw? She looks like the baby could be born any day now. If I remember correctly, you had that same look when you gave birth to each of our girls. It seems like it was just yesterday. When did we get so damn old?" Marcy waited for her husband's response. His opportunity to say something like, "You're still the prettiest girl," or offer some other compliment. But nothing came. There was no evidence of his undying love or constant desire for her. The depression that had crept into her soul grew deeper. "I guess I must look as tired as this damned old house," she thought. Only the youth of her children and grandson kept her from finally succumbing to her bad mood. After the service, the family was standing in line to greet the pastor when Marcy noticed Lucy RWS trying to get her attention. "Damn it," she thought. "What does that old bore want with me?" She pulled away from her family and headed toward Lucy at the front of the sanctuary, where they could be alone. "Lucy, what's the matter?" "Oh, Marcy, you know I don't like to spread rumors, but I saw something with my own eyes that I think you should know about." Right, Marcy thought. She'd rather start a rumor than spread it. "What, Lucy? Oh my goodness. I hate to break it to you, but I'm pretty sure I saw John leaving your house last Thursday." "What? You must be wrong." "No, he wouldn't have done that." "I'm very sorry, dear. I saw him go into the house of that woman who lives across the street from me. He was there for about 20 minutes and then he came out looking, pleased." "I'm sure you're wrong, Lucy. My John wouldn't do that." "Oh, I understand how you feel, how you want to be near your man and all that. I thought I saw him there on Thursday last week, but I wasn't sure, so I didn't say anything." Marcy thought for a moment. She realized that on Thursdays, John drove into town and stopped by the feed store. He used to go on Tuesdays but had changed his routine about 6 weeks ago. "Lucy, I appreciate your concern and bringing this to my attention. You're going to keep this between us, right?" "Of course. I don't want something like this passed on to others." "Yeah," Marcy thought to herself. "It won't be a minute before the whole town knows about it." Lucy continued. "This woman is known for being particularly fond of committing certain sexual acts, the ones that Lewinsky woman did with President Clinton. Do you know what I'm talking about?" "Yes, I do." You mean fellatio? Exactly. Nasty stuff. She's not very good-looking, so I guess that's the price she pays for male attention. I guess it is, Lucy. Marcy took a deep breath. Do you have a digital camera or a cell phone that takes pictures? Of course I do. Could you watch him next Thursday and, if you see him again, take some pictures? I'd love to, dear. How will I get them to you? Do you know how to text on your phone? Sure. Would you like me to send you the pictures? Yes, please. Just call me as soon as you see him. Okay? They exchanged numbers and parted ways. Marcy's depression and suspicions were beginning to take hold. She tried to portray a Sunday smile for her family, and thankfully, her 1-year-old grandson easily accomplished the task. As she approached the house, he hissed and rushed into her arms. Lucy took him in her arms and immediately smelled the unmistakable scent of ripe diapers. John looked at his wife with slight concern. What did Lucy want? Oh, she's trying to organize a surprise party for the pastor's birthday in a few weeks and needs my help. She turned to her eldest daughter, wrinkling her nose. Honey, I think I'll take this little ball of energy into the nursery for a minute to change a diaper. I'll meet you in the parking lot. Marcy performed her unpleasant duty with the joy of a caring grandmother. Turning to her squirming grandson, she whispered, I think we need to wash that poop off you, sweetie, and Grandma needs to find out how much poop Grandpa has. Marcy was a strong and poised woman. Her face and mannerisms showed no signs of what she had just learned from Lucy. It was easy for her to keep her composure during the family dinner. After dinner, John would be sitting in front of the television, watching the Reds lose another game. Why he cared so much about that team, she didn't understand. John left her alone on Sundays, and she usually took the opportunity to read a book to escape the confines of their simple life. She loved historical novels and often dreamed of dashing heroes sweeping her off her feet. Marcy made no secret of the fact that she had once been an attractive woman. She noticed the looks men still threw at her. Sure, the farm had made her gruff, but the tomboy in her seemed to attract many men. She was sure that if she had been a countess in Old England, she would have been able to seduce a handsome gardener for a date in the meadow. This Sunday, however, she pretended to read while contemplating how to deal with her potentially wayward spouse. She evaluated all of her husband's positives and negatives to decide what the best course of action would be, if Lucy had told the truth. Of course, she loved the rascal. He was tall and handsome, and the farm kept him slim. And for a rugged farmer, he was gentle, affectionate with her. She wondered if things hadn't changed for the better, and if his refusal to affirm his love for her that morning had taught her too much. It was the list of bad speakers that bothered and confused her. She never thought he would leave just because he was terrible in bed and usually showed little interest in sex. Oh, she loved him and had long ago decided she could live with his flaws, but he wasn't a man for 60 minutes. She was lucky if he lasted 60 seconds. He was very rich, but what good was that if he had no willpower? In all the years of their marriage, she had never once experienced the ecstasy of his efforts. She pondered for a long time on what could be done. The main question for her was whether she would be able to forgive him if he left. She had a lot to think about, and there were only a few days to do so. If Lucy was right and provided proof, JN would have to pay up on Thursday afternoon. Determining the nature of the payment was the task that lay before her. On Tuesday, John was working in the field when a plan matured in Marcy's mind. He would pay, and he would pay a lot. She would need a little help, and their farmer, Sid, was as loyal to her as a puppy. She knew Sid had a strong attraction to her, and it was time to use that to her advantage. On Wednesday morning, John was back in the field, and Sid was in the barn tending to the animals. Marcy went in search of her potential accomplice. Hey, Sid, how are you? Hello, Mrs. Murray. I'm fine, but you look fabulous as always. Sid, you're so cute. Listen, can I ask you a favor? Anything, ma'am. Do we still have the old dynamite that JN used to blow up the big rocks at East Field? Yes. He keeps it in a little shed in the meadow. Good. I need you to do a few things for me without John finding out about it. Marcy gave him instructions on what needed to be done and told him not to ask questions about why. Like a puppy, he only panted and agreed to do whatever she asked. After she had brought him up to speed enough that he understood her plans, they searched the barn for the items they needed and stashed them away for the next day, for the big event. Thanks, Sid. And remember, not a word to John. She gave him a hug to cement his devotion and went back into the house to start dinner preparations. About an hour later, John and Sid appeared in the doorway. Hi, honey. Is dinner ready? Ready, dear. Hi, Sid. I hope you're hungry. I made a big shepherd's pie. Marcy watched the two men devour the food and discuss the work they had to do. After dinner, she could feel her nerves beginning to make her question her plans. What she had planned could have serious consequences, and she was beginning to doubt that she could see it through. The men went back to work, and Marcy kept walking, thinking, worrying, walking, and thinking some more. After more than 2 hours of agonizing thought and doubt, she was determined to carry out her plan. She had one more night to hide her suspicions from John and deal with the guilt she already felt about planning to put him in danger. Thursday morning began like any workday. Marcy made breakfast for both men before they went about their business. She thought it was funny that John's eggs had so many shells and that the cookies were burnt. Marcy chuckled to herself, noticing that her man noticed it but made no complaint. As he did every Thursday, John grabbed a sandwich for lunch and got ready to go into town. Marcy stopped him before he left. Honey, I have a small list of things I need at the grocery store. Can you stop by and pick them up before you get home? Sure, sweetie. Love you. Love you too. Be good, you hear? Marcy sat at the kitchen table for what seemed like days, even though only half an hour had passed. She knew his trip to the store would take less than an hour, which meant it would be a little longer before Lucy called, if John misbehaved. Sid went into the kitchen to get iced tea. Mrs. Murray, when do I have to get ready? Why don't you sit on the porch and rest? I'll let you know when you need to get to work. Marcy's grocery list was quite long and contained many perishable items, so she knew John would have to make one last run to the store if he went to the bitch's house. He and Sid would have plenty of time to get ready. She paced the floor and must have peed 7 times since John left. Her nerves were getting out of control. And then the phone rang. The phone rang. Damn it. Hi, Lucy. Marcy, it's Lucy. What the hell? Marcy thought. What's wrong, Lucy? I'm sorry, honey. But he's there again. I have pictures I'll send over. Okay, Lucy. Thanks for your help. Marcy looked at the pictures as they came in, and it was clear that John wasn't supposed to be where he was. Damn. If Lucy wasn't right. She stepped out onto the porch to find her accomplice. Sid. Yes, ma'am. It's time. Go get Annie. Put her in where I showed you and put a sack under her. Then I'll need the little black box with the red button. Okay, ma'am. Then what am I going to do? You might want to hide in your apartment above the garage. Mr. Murray won't be happy with me, and you'd better stay away from him tonight. I'll bring you dinner later. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I guess I'd better get to it. Marcy sat at the kitchen table, tears welling up in her eyes. How could that creep do this? Why? She guessed the reasons, but John was going to tell her himself. She stood up and walked toward the table, chiding herself for her weakness. Stop feeling sorry for yourself, you silly old woman. He'll pay and you'll keep your composure. Buckle up, Buttercup. It's showtime. She sat back down with a determined look. She was now a force to be reckoned with. John didn't stand a chance. John walked into the house, carrying bags of groceries, and called out, Hi, honey. I'm home. He saw her at the table. She looked different. She looked completely different. He knew immediately that it was a look that was somewhere between anger and rage, or maybe both. Marcy, what's wrong? You should explain this. She showed him the pictures and he turned white as a sheet. She could see his brain was working hard, trying to think of something. This is my friend's house, and I just stopped by to drop something off. Really? You're not carrying anything. What are you saying, Marcy? What are you accusing me of? It's that ugly woman who works at the store, the one who doesn't have so many teeth that she flosses. What the hell are you doing there? And why doesn't she work at the store? John sat down in the chair across from his wife and realized he had a confession to make. John looked at his wife's face. She was trembling with anger, and he realized this was not going to go anywhere good. A few weeks ago, some guy at the store was bragging about how his wife wakes him up in the morning with breakfast in bed. I mumbled something, thinking no one would hear me, but she heard me say to myself, "You never do that at all, much less in the mornings." She calmly responded, "I can take care of you whenever you want. Just let me know. Thursdays are my day off." Her tone was even, but now, as she stared at him, her voice turned sharp. "Is that why you changed the day you leave for the city? Are you spending time with someone else while I'm here? You barely make time for me. Why would you do that? Because she does something you refuse to do. Okay?" John snapped. "She makes me feel wanted, and you don't even consider it." "Oh yeah? And when you demand I do things for you, what do I always say? What do you mean? What do I tell you every time you ask?" "I don't know. Are you serious? Maybe you're just not listening." John hesitated before muttering, "That you don't like it." Marcy crossed her arms. "That's right. And do you know why? Because you think it's ridiculous? Ridiculous? No, it's because I have never felt truly appreciated by you. Let me ask you this. How many times have you enjoyed being with me?" "Well, every time, of course." "True. And how many times have I felt the same way?" John hesitated. "I don't know. Probably most of the time." Marcy shook her head. "Wrong. And that proves you never listened to me. You, my dear husband, have never truly cared about my happiness. Never, never, never." "Oh, come on. I try my best." "Do you?" She cut him off. "You take what you want, but do you ever stop to think about me? I love you, John, but you have been selfish. And after all that, you have the nerve to go to someone else for comfort." John opened his mouth to argue, but Marcy wasn't done. "Sit down. I'm not finished. This is how it's going to be. Look out the window." "What?" "Look out the goddamn window." John turned his head and saw their beloved car, his prized 1956 Chevy 210, parked in the meadow. His heart skipped a beat when he noticed a small black box sitting beside it. "See that little black box? It's a remote, and if you don't make a choice right now, well, let's just say you won't be driving that car home tonight." John's blood ran cold. "Marcy, you wouldn't. You need to choose. Right now. What do you want from me? First of all, I want you to prove to me that you care about me, that you're willing to change." John swallowed hard. He had no choice. For the first time in their marriage, John put in real effort. And as Marcy finally felt truly valued, she realized how much time had been wasted. When she had composed herself again, she looked at him. "So, John, was that so bad?" He shook his head. "Marcy, I'm sorry. I should have done this a long time ago." "So, do you think you'd do it again?" "Not just once. I'd do it every time if you wanted me to. Every day for the rest of our lives." Marcy exhaled, her expression softening. "Good. Then maybe we can start over." She held up the black box. "By the way, there's no detonator. No real threat. I just needed you to listen to me for once. To understand what I've been feeling." John's shoulders slumped with relief. "Just remember, John, if you ever take me for granted again, there's a very deep lake near the quarry, and I still have a spare set of keys.